giant python burst from the thick black mud beside the shallow river, coiling around the lioness who was stalking her prey with terrifying speed. Its body, over 6 meters long, tightened loop after loop around its victim's form like an unforgiving death machine. The lioness's desperate roar echoed, shattering the stillness of the Serengeti savanna under the scorching midday sun, where the relentless heat turned the air into a shimmering furnace without a single cloud in the sky. Not far away, her 2 cubs stood small and helpless, trembling and crying out, their wide eyes reflecting panic as they watched their mother being attacked by the unexpected predator. The savanna in the dry season appeared harsh and unforgiving, with endless stretches of withered golden grass, twisted under the intense sunlight, swaying slightly in the wind that carried the scent of scorched earth. The river, once the lifeblood of this land, was now just a cracked strip of earth with a few murky puddles, where desperate animals searched for the last traces of moisture. On that barren riverbank, the lioness had chosen her spot to stalk her prey, her body taut with hidden strength beneath her shimmering golden fur, her sharp eyes tracking every movement of the unfortunate creature in what seemed like a peaceful space. But the danger didn't come from the front. It came from beneath, the thick, black mud. The python, its scales glinting metallically in the sun, had hidden perfectly, waiting for the right moment. It emerged like a phantom without a sound to warn of its approach, striking the lioness with terrifying force. Its coils tightened relentlessly, squeezing the breath from her, leaving her thrashing in vain, her claws frantically scraping against the python's armored skin. The cubs' cries for help were lost in the dry wind, while their mother's gaze dimmed with pain. What would be the fate of this lion family in the face of nature's cruelty? Night fell over the wild forest with only a faint moonlight illuminating Simba's writhing body, trapped in the giant python's coils. The snake's smooth, powerful body exerted such force that Simba's bones creaked, as if they might shatter under the unrelenting pressure. The predator's thick skin was like impenetrable armor, defying Simba's desperate bites. Each snap of her jaws left only meaningless scratches, while the python tightened its grip, seemingly intent on crushing not just her body, but her fierce spirit. Simba roared, but her once mighty voice was now tinged with pain and exhaustion, echoing through the barren trees. A few meters away, her 2 cubs, Kito and Zara, stood frozen in panic, their weak cries swept away by the wind, unable to do anything but watch the horrifying scene. Kito and Zara's reactions: Zara, the timid cub, huddled behind a scraggly bush, her small legs trembling as if they might give way. Her wide eyes brimmed with tears, but she couldn't bear to look directly at her mother, only daring to peek through the leaves, terrified and helpless. The sound of the python's coils tightening and Simba's faltering roars were like daggers piercing Zara's young heart, making her want to curl up and hope it was all just a nightmare. Meanwhile, Kito, though also afraid, felt a sudden surge of strength welling up inside him. Seeing his mother weaken, his sharp eyes flashed with determination. He knew that if he didn't act, the whole family would have no chance of survival. Taking a deep breath, Kito turned and bolted into the pitch-black forest, running to find help. He didn't know who or what he would find, but his small legs kept moving, carrying a fragile hope for his mother and sister. The rangers arrive, about 2 kilometers away, on an old jeep coated in red dust. Dr. Aisha and Jamal were patrolling the forest's edge. Dr. Aisha, a seasoned zoologist, was explaining to Jamal, a young, passionate ranger, how to distinguish the tracks of large animals. Suddenly, a distant roar interrupted their conversation, startling them both. Dr. Aisha immediately signaled for silence, tilting her head to listen. A second roar followed, clearer this time, carrying tones of pain and a plea for help. "That's a lion," she said, her voice low but certain. "It's in danger." Without hesitation, she ordered Jamal to drive toward the sound while she quickly checked the tranquilizer gun and rescue kit. Jamal floored the gas, the jeep jolting violently over the rough terrain, his heart pounding with a mix of worry and excitement. They didn't know what awaited them, but both understood that time was critical. Simba's fight for survival back at the scene. Each second felt like an eternity for Simba. The python's strength didn't wane. If anything, it seemed to grow, squeezing the life out of her with every passing moment. Air in her lungs was depleting, each breath a sharp pain shooting through her chest. Her vision began to blur, the surrounding trees smearing into dark streaks. But in her mind, the images of Kito and Zara were clearer than ever, her cubs, whom she had sworn to protect at all costs. That thought was like a final spark, urging her to muster the strength for one last roar. Though it was so weak, it was almost carried away by the wind. She couldn't give up, couldn't leave her cubs orphaned in this harsh wilderness. But her chances of escape were slipping away, and she could feel death creeping closer. Kito in danger. Kito raced through thorny bushes, his small paws bleeding from sharp rocks, but he didn't dare stop. The night wind carried strange scents, and he suddenly realized he had wandered into unfamiliar territory. Before he could gather his thoughts, a massive shape emerged from behind a large rock, a huge, fierce male lion with a thick mane billowing in the wind. Its eyes gleamed with menace, and its roar echoed through the forest, freezing Kito for a moment. The male saw him as an intruder and charged without hesitation. Kito turned and fled, his tiny legs barely fast enough to escape the fearsome pursuer. He cried out as he ran, his voice hoarse and lost in the wind. At one point, the male lunged, its claws missing Kito by inches. But luckily, he slipped through a narrow gap between two rocks, temporarily evading the predator's grasp. Yet the danger wasn't over, and Kito knew he had to keep running to survive. Kito leads the rangers while fleeing from danger. Kito, with his small, trembling legs, charged through dense bushes, his matted fur caked with mud. Suddenly, in his panic, he tripped over a large route and tumbled onto a narrow trail near the ranger station, where Dr. Aisha and Jamal were finishing their day's patrol. Their flashlights swept through the darkness, revealing an unbelievable sight. A lone lion cub, his wide eyes reflecting fear, crying desperately in the night. Kito's sounds weren't the usual roars of a lion, but rather desperate pleas for help. Dr. Aisha, with over 10 years of experience as a ranger, immediately sensed something was wrong. Jamal, do you see that? A cub here, without its mother? Something's definitely not right, she said, her voice low but filled with concern. She stepped closer, but instead of running or growling, Kito turned toward the forest, continuing to cry, then ran a few steps before stopping and looking back as if to say, "Follow me." Jamal, though new to the job, felt the urgency in Kito's behavior. "Right, Dr. Aisha, I think he wants us to follow him. Maybe his mother is really in danger." Quickly grabbed the rescue kit and tranquilizer gun from the station while Dr. Aisha ordered them to the jeep. Kito didn't wait long. He led the way, running ahead and glancing back to make sure they were following, as the jeep rolled forward a few meters. Deafening thunderclap tore through the black sky. The first drops of rain fell, cold and heavy, quickly turning into a violent storm. Strong winds whipped up dry leaves and dust, obscuring Dr. Aisha and Jamal's vision. The already rough trail became slippery, with rainwater streaming over it, covering the path. "This weather's going to mess everything up," Dr. Aisha muttered, trying to stay calm. "Jamal, drive slowly. Don't let the jeep skid." Jamal nodded, gripping the steering wheel tightly, but the old jeep shook violently on the muddy road. Through the dim headlights, they could still see Kito's small figure ahead, soaked but undeterred. After a short distance, the rangers reached a dry riverbed, usually just a cracked strip of earth. But now, under the torrential rain, it had swelled into a raging torrent. Carrying branches and mud, Dr. Aisha ordered the jeep to stop, her eyes fixed on the churning water. "We can't drive through," she said, her voice tense. "The current's too strong, the jeep will be swept away." Jamal looked around, hoping for another path, but the dense forest and darkness offered no alternatives. "So what do we do now, Dr. Aisha?" "We don't have much time," Jamal asked, his voice trembling. Dr. Aisha took a deep breath and made the tough call. "We have to go on foot. Bring the gun and the rescue kit. Be careful with every step." They stepped out of the jeep, the rain pelting their faces with icy coldness, the heavy equipment weighing down their shoulders. Kito leaped over the rocks jutting out of the water, guiding them forward. Dr. Aisha and Jamal followed closely, but each step was a challenge. The rocks were slippery, the water knee-deep, and the current kept pushing them off course. At one point, Jamal slipped, nearly swept away by the torrent, but Dr. Aisha managed to pull him back in time. After crossing the river, they pressed on, leaving the jeep stuck in the mud behind them. The rescue gear grew heavier with each step, mud clinging to their boots, slowing their progress in the relentless storm. Far away, Simba Kito's mother was in critical condition. The giant python still coiled tightly around her, each loop constricting her breath. Simba's breathing grew faint, reduced to soft whimpers. She was on the verge of collapse. With only minutes left before complete exhaustion, Dr. Aisha and Jamal quickened their pace, ignoring their aching bodies and the rain lashing their faces. They knew every second was vital to Simba's survival. The flashlight beam swept across the rain-soaked trees, searching for any sign of Kito. Finally, they arrived. Simba lay motionless, bound by the python, her eyes glazed as if about to close. Forever. Dr. Aisha immediately regained her composure. "Jamal, ready the tranquilizer gun?" she ordered. Jamal, hands trembling under the pressure, aimed at the python, but the strong winds and heavy rain made it difficult to steady his grip. He pulled the trigger, but the dart veered off, embedding in to begin _ line, embedding into a nearby tree. "There's no time," Dr. Aisha shouted, snatching the gun from him. She aimed carefully, calculating the angle through the downpour, and fired. The dart struck true, sinking deep into the python. After a few tense seconds, the snake's coils loosened, and it slumped. Unconscious, Simba was freed, but she was barely clinging to life. Dr. Aisha knelt beside her, checking her breathing. "She's alive, but very weak. We need to act fast," she said, her voice shaky. With the storm still raging and the jeep abandoned, they had no choice but to set up a makeshift shelter, tend to Simba on the spot, and wait for help at dawn. Under the dim flashlight, Dr. Aisha and Jamal took turns keeping watch, while Kito nestled beside his mother, his eyes still glimmering with fragile hope. After hours of battling the fierce storm, the ranger team finally reached the area where Simba faced her peril. The sky was pitch black, thunder booming as if tearing the air apart. Mingling with the howling wind through the ancient trees, torrential rain blurred their vision, but Jamal's flashlight struggled to illuminate the path ahead. As they drew closer, the sight froze them in place. Simba, the brave lioness, lay motionless beneath the giant python's coils. Its smooth scales glistened in the faint light. Simba's eyes closed, her breathing shallow like a candle about to flicker out. Dr. Aisha, the team leader, quickly regained her composure. With years of experience in the deep forest, she knew time was Simba's lifeline. "Jamal, prepare the tranquilizer gun now," she commanded, her voice cutting sharply. Through the rain, Jamal hurriedly opened the rescue kit, his hands shaking from the cold and pressure. He loaded the dart with a strong sedative into the gun, but the rain made his grip slippery, nearly dropping the weapon. "Stay calm, Jamal. We can't afford mistakes," Dr. Aisha reminded him, her eyes fixed on the python. She stepped forward, assessing the distance and angle. The python remained oblivious to their presence, still constricting Simba. Dr. Aisha knew that if the dart missed, not only would Simba die, but the python might turn on them. "Aim for the body near the head, away from Simba," she instructed. "Jamal," her voice low but commanding. Jamal nodded, took a deep breath, and raised the gun. But just as he was about to fire, a sudden gust of wind threw him off balance. In a panic, he pulled the trigger too soon. The dart flew wide, heading straight towards Simba, missing her head by mere inches. "No," Dr. Aisha yelled, lunging to grab the gun from Jamal. "Let me." She gripped the gun tightly, breathing deeply to steady herself. Rain battered her face, wind gusts tugged at her, but she didn't flinch. She recalculated the angle, adjusted for the wind, and fired. The dart shot out, embedding deep into the python's body just behind its head. Time seemed to freeze. 1 second, 2 seconds, then the python stiffened, its coils slowly loosening. Finally, it collapsed unconscious beside Simba, leaving the team sighing in relief. Simba was now free, but her body was too weak to stand. She lay there, her chest rising and falling faintly. Her eyes glazed as if still lost in a nightmare. Dr. Aisha knelt beside her, gently examining her. Bruises from the python's coils covered her, along with a few bleeding bites, but thankfully no severe injuries. "She'll live, but she needs immediate care," Dr. Aisha said, her voice trembling with a mix of emotion and relief. She retrieved a revival injection from the rescue kit and carefully administered it into Simba's vein. Within minutes, Simba's breathing steadied, her golden eyes slowly opening, though still weary. Kito and Zara, the two cubs who had been huddled in the rain, shivering from cold and fear, now dared to approach their mother. They purred softly, nuzzling into Simba's fur, as if to reassure themselves she was still alive and with them. Simba, though weak, managed to lift her head, turning their affection with a gentle nudge of her nose. The rain began to ease, and Jamal's flashlight illuminated Simba's face, now showing signs of life returning. Though her body remained limp, she tried to lick Kito and Zara's faces. The licks were slow and weak, but filled with love, as if to say, "I'm still here. Don't be afraid." The simple yet profound act was a testament to a mother's love overcoming nature's dangers. Dr. Aisha and Jamal stood silently beside them, saying nothing, just quietly absorbing the wonder of the moment. Jamal, the young ranger with a sensitive heart, couldn't hold back his tears. He turned to Dr. Aisha, his voice choked. "Dr. Aisha, I never thought wild animals could have such deep emotions. Seeing them, I feel like human love is nothing compared to this." Dr. Aisha smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Jamal, you're mistaken. Their love is no different from ours. They just express it in their own way. And today, we're lucky to witness it." As Kito and Zara nestled beside their mother, Simba suddenly turned her head, her golden eyes locking on to Dr. Aisha. Though tired, her gaze sparkled with a strange, light, wordless gratitude. She let out a low, gentle rumble, not threatening, but tender, like a sincere thank you. Dr. Aisha, with her experience, understood the meaning of that sound. She bent down, lightly touching Simba's head, whispering, "It's okay, strong girl. You did great." Jamal, standing nearby, couldn't hide his amazement mixed with emotion. "She knows we saved her, doesn't she, Dr. Aisha?" His voice trembling. Dr. Aisha nodded, her eyes still on Simba. "Yes, Jamal. Wild animals can sense kindness. Simba won't forget what we've done for her and her cubs." Under the clearing sky, as the last raindrops fell, the rangers and the lion family were connected by an invisible thread of love and life. The storm had passed, giving way to a peaceful night, carrying with it a story of courage, maternal love, and gratitude that transcended species. 6 months after Simba's rescue, the ranger team, including Dr. Aisha and Jamal, continued their conservation work in the Serengeti Reserve. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped behind distant hills, they began their routine survey to monitor the animal populations in the area. The old Jeep, a faithful companion through many trips, rolled along the bumpy trail, its engines hum. Blending with the sounds of the wild, suddenly, a loud crack came from under the vehicle, followed by the sound of metal clanging. The Jeep jerked to a stop in the middle of the forest. Jamal, who was driving, frowned with worry. "Dr. Aisha, I think the Jeep's broken," he said, his voice shaky. Dr. Aisha, sitting beside him, signaled for calm. "Check if it can be fixed. We can't stay here too long. It's getting dark." Jamal stepped out, popped the hood, but with limited mechanical knowledge, he couldn't identify the problem. Meanwhile, darkness enveloped the forest, the last rays of sunlight fading, giving way to a pitch-black night. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying ominous whispers. Suddenly, from the darkness, a chilling howl rang out, followed by the distinctive cackling laughter of hyenas. Dr. Aisha immediately recognized the danger. "Jamal, get back in the Jeep," she shouted, but it was too late. A pack of over 15 hyenas, their eyes glinting in the night, slowly emerged from the bushes. Surrounding the rangers, hyenas, with their aggressive nature and pack-hunting tactics, began closing in, growling menacingly. Jamal, in an attempt to protect the group, grabbed a large stick from the ground and swung it to ward them off. "Back off! Back off!" he yelled, but his trembling voice betrayed his fear. A large hyena, likely the leader, leaped forward and sank its teeth into Jamal's leg. He fell, screaming in pain as blood poured from the wound, soaking his pants. Dr. Aisha, with the calm of an experienced ranger, picked up nearby stones and hurled them at the hyenas. "Go away, go away," she shouted, but her actions only provoked them further. Instead of retreating, the pack advanced, their sharp teeth flashing in the faint moonlight, with Jamal severely injured. The rangers had no choice but to back away. They were forced against a large rock, the sheer cliff behind them, and no escape. Dr. Aisha scanned for any way out, but the darkness and the hyenas blocked every path. In the rescue kit, she realized the tranquilizer darts were depleted from the previous trip, leaving them with only rudimentary tools, a small knife, a coil of rope, and a flashlight with dying batteries. "Jamal, can you stand?" Dr. Aisha asked, her voice filled with concern. Jamal, despite the pain, tried to rise, but his leg couldn't support his weight. I can't, Dr. Aisha," he gasped, sweat beading on his forehead. The hyenas, sensing their prey's weakness, edged closer, their growls growing louder. Dr. Aisha gripped the knife tightly, ready to fight to the end. No. But she knew that against such overwhelming numbers, their chances of survival were slim. Suddenly, a large hyena lunged at Dr. Aisha, its sharp teeth clamping onto her shoulder. She fell, pain shooting through her body, but she didn't give up. With her remaining strength, she stabbed the knife into the hyena's leg, causing it to yelp and retreat. But immediately, two more leaped in, poised to finish her off. Jamal, though injured, couldn't stand by. He screamed in panic, using every ounce of strength to pull Dr. Aisha from the encirclement. He swung the stick, striking a hyena on the head. But his strength was too weak, and the stick snapped in half after the blow. The hyenas, as if sensing their desperation, grew even more aggressive, preparing for the final attack. In that moment, Dr. Aisha and Jamal clung to each other, ready to face death. They knew there was no hope left, but at least they wouldn't die alone. The howls of the hyenas echoed through the forest, like a mournful dirge for the two brave souls. At the most critical moment, when darkness enveloped everything, and the hyenas' howls reverberated, a powerful roar suddenly tore through the air. From deep within the forest, Simba, the majestic lioness, led her pride charging out. Beside her were Kito and Zara, now grown, their muscles taut, eyes blazing with determination. Simba roared fiercely, the sound shaking the earth, as if challenging the enemy. She leaped forward, diving straight into the pack of hyenas surrounding. Dr. Aisha and Jamal, her claws flashing in the darkness. Kito and Zara didn't hesitate, joining their mother in the fight. Kito, with agility, bit hard into a hyena's leg, making it yelp in pain. Zara, though younger, bravely faced another foe, protecting the exhausted rangers. The sudden appearance of the lions threw the hyenas into disarray, losing their advantage. The battle was fierce, with growls and howls creating a violent symphony of the wild. Simba, with her vast experience, led the pride in coordinated attacks. She targeted the hyena leader, delivering a fatal blow that sent it tumbling, setting an example for the others. Kito weaved nimbly, biting at the enemy's heels, throwing them off balance. Zara, despite her inexperience, staunchly defended the rear, preventing the hyenas from approaching the rangers. Within minutes, lions completely overpowered the pack. Blood splattered across the ground, the hyenas' cries weakening. Finally, Simba delivered the decisive strike, a powerful pounce that made the lead hyena screech and flee. The remaining hyenas, realizing defeat, scattered into the depths of the forest, leaving behind an astonishing silence. When the danger passed, Simba turned back, her gaze unusually gentle. She walked slowly toward Dr. Aisha and Jamal, who were still in shock, their wounds bleeding but their hearts filled with gratitude. Dr. Aisha, despite the pain, managed to sit up, her eyes meeting Simba's in a wordless moment. Simba gently touched her nose to Dr. Aisha's hand, a simple yet profound gesture, affirming the special friendship between them. Jamal, though exhausted, smiled through his tears. "Simba saved us, Dr. Aisha. She didn't forget," he whispered. Dr. Aisha nodded, gently stroking Simba's head. This is proof that kindness can reach even the wildest creatures. Back at the ranger station, despite her fatigue, Dr. Aisha sat at her desk, writing a detailed report of the event. She emphasized the miraculous bond between humans and animals, calling for respect and protection of nature. She decided to organize new training sessions to raise awareness among rangers. About humane interaction with wildlife, the story of Simba spread, becoming a symbol of harmony between humans and nature, reminding us that in the wild world, gratitude and friendship always exist. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the relationship between humans and wild animals? How can we live in harmony with nature? Don't forget to subscribe to the Animal Kissa channel to follow more meaningful stories about the animal world and our conservation efforts. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. We hope the story of Simba and the Rangers touched your heart. Please continue to support and spread love for nature. See you in the next videos from Animal Kissa.